And we're live.
Happy Monday morning to the Nudelberg Daily Huddle.
It is Monday, and like this song says, man, feeling strong now, won't be long now.
We are back.
Hopefully you had a nice weekend there, my boy.
Great weekend with Kai, Everett, Nudelberg. Awesome stuff.
Very, very nice. I actually ventured out to a friend's house, go figure. Like, who knew that would be the highlight? But we went to my good friend Jerry Latrento's house. We watched a phenomenal movie that I had not seen, one that had passed me by. That's My Boy, which is kind of appropriate to this show. But
Adam Sandler.
If you haven't seen it, it is spectacular.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning, John.
Saw David Allen on my run this morning. Actually was down on the beach. Andrea Garcia, awesome job. Early Monday morning post, and you got it. Bam.
Look at Jake.
Jake Nudelberg.
Okay, come over here.
Merkin is back. I think Merkin's a regular. That's awesome. He'll be a guest on Tell Me Something Good this week.
That's awesome.
Charles.
Yeah, Gary's here every day. Kai, come here real quick.
Oh, we got a guest appearance. Oh, look at that, man. What's up?
I said, what,
hi, buddy.
See, this is all the people that are saying.
There's so many people looking at you this morning.
Hi. Can you wave hi? Up here so they can see. Hi. Good morning.
So this is a particularly exciting week for us. In addition to having that gorgeous face join us this morning, we got some fun stuff to talk about, correct?
That is correct. We've got something awesome happening and launching and joining, which is great.
So I want to start out by sharing a quick, so everybody check out that song, play the Rocky theme song, and watch how whatever you're doing, you do better.
Get you.
It's just the way it works. So I want to start out this morning with something unique, something that just appeared sort of in my life. We talk about goal setting all the time. And, what's kind of neat is that I started this diet last Monday morning. So I am now full week into it. As you might be able to tell, I went from a basketball to something a little bit more elongated. But I had a talk with my coach, and we actually started to get into, hey, you've done so well in your first week, you may want to adjust your goals. Imagine that. A coach saying, hey, listen, you set a goal that you thought you could do. I think you could do better, and I'm going to help you get there. And so it's amazing how life throws you these scenarios that's why outside help sometimes you can see the chessboard different than the person who's actually playing chess. There's sometimes, and I really like that analogy, you go look over the chessboard and you go, hey, why don't you make that move? And someone goes, wow, man, I just see it different. Doesn't make me smarter, anything like that. So coaching and learning is the topic of the day. Why don't you jump in, MN?
Yeah, I'm excited to share with what we have happening today. There's going to be a bunch of stuff that comes out on social about a partnership that we have and some stuff that we have in order to help people kind of take what we're teaching and what we're doing and take it to the next level, because we're going to talk about how to really physicalize and really put into your brain and really own and cement the knowledge that you take. I mean, I'm a firm believer that it takes a lot of ways of consuming the same information to really get it to set in and own it. And we're going to talk about a bunch of that today. So if you want to start with the topic of where we're going with the pyramid, and if you want to make the announcement, since you are the CEO.
I am the CEO. How about that, man? Can I change my title to chairman? Titles don't matter. I love working with you. It's been an absolute treat, a pleasure to start every day doing this. So in the theme of learning, one of the things I want you to think about was the last time you did anything that fed your body where you learned something, and then think about 3 to 5 days later and say to yourself, what's my retention? What happened? And I think one of the biggest challenges of training, and a lot of people would do these, you go to a convention, it's a 3-day event and you're there and they're plowing through information, and 3 days later, and Tony Robbins even says this, most of the audience has no idea. They just, it's gone away. Rah, rah, rah. Motivation goes away. Learning goes away. And so really the most important part of learning is the second act. It's what do you do to retain it? And so we've noticed this, and I am super jacked to announce a partnership with a company called Huddle. They're based in New York City. Sam Caiucci and Brian Martin, two solid guys who are just amazing in terms of understanding. And now Sam coincidentally played football and was coached by the same coach that Jake Nudelberg was coached by, Coach G, and Mark, from recruiting. So he realized that there was a void. His company started out creating online games, and then all of a sudden realized that there was this big void, and they have taken learning content and flipped it into games that people can actually get scored on. And I'm super jacked that they took my book and they will be sharing my book to all of their sales clients, Confessions of a Serial Salesman, and they are gamifying the book. The book is available. There'll be a press release. I'm sorry, the game is available. The press release will go out today. And I want all of you to use it, play with it, have fun, and understand the power of retention. So
we'll release how to do it. You guys download the app. But what Huddle does that's really incredible, and we believe in modernizing, we believe in digitizing, we believe in moving forward. And training has traditionally been on a desktop in a room with 80 other people or in a little cubicle by yourself. So One Huddle gamifies it and puts it into an app and puts it on your mobile phone. So you're able to do it anywhere. You're able to work on it all the time. It's really cool. There's great music involved with it. It's a timer, it's game, there's results. So it's actually competitive. And so we're excited to have everybody be able to do that and use it. And, but that takes us into our topic of how do you learn? And I know as a college football coach, for me, teaching special teams, which everybody looks at that as like an afterthought, right? It's offense, defense that wins the games, yet special teams is a third of the game, right? For all the plays that are played, it's a full third of the game, yet you get less time to teach it. So understanding the teachings of how to create short, quick buzzwords to get people to understand it verbally and they could hear it, right? Showing them on film and in writing and diagrams so they could see it, and then getting them out onto the field in order to practice it and do it. I knew that as a coach, I had to hit all three sectors. Number one, because everybody learns differently. And number two, that was the only way to get it ingrained in them and what we're teaching and what we were about. So even in meetings, when I would be talking and teaching everything that we were doing off of a PowerPoint and off of film, I was a fan of call and response, because if they weren't giving me the information back, I knew there was absolutely no way that we get out on the field and they actually knew what to do. So that's a football example of how I taught. But you do it all. You've done it all the time with teaching people sales. It's critical.
So I'm going to give you two quotes. One by Seneca, and if anybody's never looked up Seneca, some of the most thought-provoking quotes ever. Here's one: "While we teach, we learn." Certainly a great one, but here's one even better by a guy named Peter Drucker. Again, what are you feeding yourself, though? Here's two authors, one from Greek mythology, one from here. Boom, all of a sudden, hey, Peter Drucker, no one learns as much about a subject as one who is forced to teach it. And so fundamentally, if you go into every learning, every training, every thing you get involved in, every client engagement, listen to this, take it to that, where if you listen to a client, right, and you have the intent to have to teach it to somebody else the next day, everybody's always, tell me about your business. Nobody even gives a shit. I want to just get to the point where I can blast you with my sales pitch. If you really, really, really take advantage of the mindset of, hey, I'm going to have to teach this tomorrow. Wow. I mean, the sense of urgency goes off the chart. I'm going to give you a Harvard study. Employees who spent the last 15 minutes of each day of their training reflecting on what they were taught that day did 23% better in final testing and engagement. Okay. Amazingly, those 15 minutes are only 1/33 of the total time, but so,
Drive 20% of the learning,
correct.
Which I think is critical. Like, you spend 8 hours in a training session, but those 15 minutes of writing it down and physicalizing it for yourself so you can get it deeper drives 20% of the amount that you learn, which, when we're talking about sales and process and we're going in and we're training people, the understanding of, okay, great, this is motivational and this is exciting because it's energetic and we're giving you all the new tools. But legitimately, after we train people on LinkedIn, we get a request from people without a message immediately.
Unbelievable.
Right. They're listening, but they're not retaining it because they're just there and they're not actually getting the information by writing it down and making sure that they absorb all of it.
So there's something called the explanation effect, which this is why the dialogue with Brian Martin, by the way, he is in the Huddle. I welcome you to please reach out to him. He can share with you success stories, talking about what he's done with companies across every category, taking boring training manuals, taking onboarding and gamifying it so that everybody is in the mindset of, I want to win the game. Once you win the game, you've learned the stuff, man. It becomes inherently part of you. It's called the explanation effect. And if you can learn something and then the following day explain it, I've always used that term, but until we started doing research, which you guys know, I'm a research nut, I didn't even realize there was such a thing called the explanation effect. So this is the kind of stuff that is innovative. It's, thought-provoking. And if you can make your sales team and your employees better, HR, anybody in here in HR, you gamify HR, you gamify diversity. Oh my God. Everybody's talking about diversity training. If you can figure out how to gamify it so that people get engaged in the learning, it's really, really powerful.
I think the critical thinking that comes from having to learn something well enough to be able to teach it is great too, because it allows you in your mind to figure out where the gaps are on what doesn't make sense. I mean, I think when we spent that Friday strategizing, you and I went back and forth, and because you've been in it and you created it, and then I came in and learned it well enough to teach it, that all of a sudden I had gaps in my learning process where I was like, well, this doesn't make sense to me. I feel like there's a missing piece right here, or there's something where we should add something, or how do we explain this a little better? It forces you to think critically about each process because you're learning it in a way that you're saying, okay, I have to be able to regurgitate this and be able to tell this to somebody else. So it forces you to create the map in your mind of sequences that make it all make sense for you to own it.
Most of the corporate coaching that I do, sales management is very frustrated when people don't follow the process or follow the plan. Well, if you ask most of those people who are not following it, they don't even know it. Right. I mean, here's the most bizarre thing. When we were doing marketing, we would get in, start interviewing some of the people in the organization. They didn't even know the mission statement. There's certain, non-negotiables that if you're going to work for On the Ball, you better know who we are. You better know our story, our top 5 success, event, all of those things are non-negotiable. If you want to work here, you need to do that. You need to know it. And so, this platform, first of all, we've been working on this for a couple of months. We've kicked the tires. created our own processes of how we're working with them. We have some major organizations in the pipe. It's really fun. It's really, really fun what we've been able to do when you talk about learning the product line. I mean, I was in Dallas last year and I did one-on-ones with somebody. And I said to the guy, I said, so what's your biggest strength? My work ethic. Great. And I said, what's your weakness? He goes, I don't know the product line. I said, dude, you've been here 2 years. That means instantly somebody that walks into an office or makes a relationship, if they know more about the product, they win, hands down, because you can't fake that. And he did that in front of his senior leader. The senior leader was sitting there. I was like dumbfounded. I was like, really? Really? It would take you 1 day to learn. If you just invested 1 day and then really digested it, it's not hard. It's just amazing what people do. So I want to give the definition of what sales gamification is. It's the practice of taking elements of game playing, points, competition, rules, prizes, some great prizes, and deploying them into sales, operation, and execution. Wow. Where were you when I was building big sales teams? So, we have a very, we have a keen sense that years from now, this is going to be the norm. It's not going to be, the outlier.
Yeah, I think being able to, with the way they put it into an app and gamify it changes the way people learn it. The fact that it's competitive, it drives home all of the points that we believe in how to learn, how to teach, how to train. So if the content sucks, you can't fix that, right? You've got to go in and change the content. But if the content is great and you're delivering it in a poor way or in a way that people don't accept it anymore, your message still isn't getting received. And if the message isn't received, it doesn't matter how talented the people are. And we talked about this, with whether players become great coaches and how that happens. There are a lot of great players who didn't make great coaches because they never really learned the game. They just relied on their great athleticism and their great raw natural talent. This is argument for people, but Terrell Owens would have never been a great coach because he wasn't a technician. He was bigger, stronger, faster, and just outplayed everybody else. Jerry Rice would make a great coach because he was a technician. He was to the very millimeter of every single route and every step, two very different things. So if you can combine the talented people on your sales force and train them in a way that makes them absolute technicians about what they do and how they do it, that's how you really maximize success. It's how great teams are built in both athletics and in business.
So I want to turn that upside down and say a big shout out to Jake, first of all, for getting up for the huddle. He's back in Gainesville, and I'm proud.
Being dedicated.
I'm proud of him for doing that. But if you looked at Jake's career as a high school athlete, he did not have the physical skills that some of the other guys that were playing quarterback did. But the reason why he was able to become a starting quarterback was his keen understanding of the game. No doubt he makes a good coach because he really understands the game. And that's the best way to earn respect. When, you the same thing. When you jumped into coaching, you were 18, you were coaching some seniors that were 22. They were like, why would I listen to a guy like you who's never played? Because I know the game. I understand it, And so when you get the double where you and I have basically, I've done it for 40 years.
Yep.
I don't need your validation. You need my validation. I need to help you see over your shoulder. And that's why great ones, LeBron,
Yep.
Michael Jordan, Tom Brady. Tom Brady has a guy that coaches his diet, coaches, every part of his life, not because he has to have it, but because he wants to. And those are people who learn it, teach it, do it. I love it. So,
I keep a notepad while we do our huddles because sometimes there are things that hit me in a different way. And I make sure that when those moments happen, I have a pen and paper so that I can write down what's happening.
So a couple of new faces to the huddle. Carlos Castrosana, one of my dear friends who I never get to see enough of. Welcome aboard, brother. Sean Flood, welcome aboard. Jeff Klugerman, who also knows the power. His son played baseball at Bucknell, I think. And he's saying Jake was a tough kid. Jake was a tough kid. Maybe, but I think it was his brains really that made it work. So we're real excited about this. I want the takeaway to be, you guys look at what you're digesting every single day. Listen, every single day, whether it's an article, a book. I think people read books to say they read the book. They have no idea. Hey, tell me what the book was about. I mean, like for me, when I read The Tipping Point, I read it 3 times before I even made a comment on it. I underlined the shit out of it. I don't use Kindle. I don't use anything online. I want the physical book because then I take and write notes about the book. There's just no other way. So good stuff.
Great start to a Monday morning. Great start.
We went over on a hard stop, but
we're right at it. We're at 8:20. We're good.
Okay. So good stuff. Lots of fun. We will post all over social, all over Daily Huddle, the idea of using the game, my book. I'm super proud, super excited. And I actually played the game as a non-game player. Certainly my generation has its challenges, but certainly to teach millennials and the younger generation, I think it's fabulous. I'm super excited. And let's go out and kick some ass. Da-na-na, na-na.
I don't know if you saw, but Scott Thaler wants to know about the diet. So you got to reach out to
Everybody
Scott.
should want to know about the diet. I feel unfucking real.
Have a great day.
See ya.